The Atheist Debates Patreon project presents Professional Debater on Biden-Trump 2024, Debate 1. Hope you guys are doing well. As I mentioned previously, I've got a bit of a cold, so hopefully I speak clearly and don't distract too much. I watched the first presidential debate for 2024 between Biden and Trump. We will probably watch the final debate in September live on the line. But I was asked, I got back from traveling and I watched the debate, and rather than going live, I just took notes. And we were talking about possibly doing a post-debate kind of review where we, looked it over and talked about it. I've decided I'm going to just do that really quickly here because as someone who debates for a living and teaches about debating, this debate was a mess, and I have a number of issues and a number of thoughts, but I left the debate thinking the worst, generally, of Biden's performance. This was a very bad debate, especially for Biden. I'm going to go through this in a couple of different points to talk about the good for Biden, the good for Trump, the bad for Biden, the bad for Trump, some notes about the excuses, but also just debates in general and what I thought was really problematic about this debate. There were a number of things, including one of the debate rules that completely favored Trump, even though I don't know that people realized it right away when this was being set up. So for those who didn't watch the debate, I'm sure you can go out there and find it. I know a number of different news outlets carried it live. It was run by CNN, but other organizations had their videos up. First, the good news for President Biden. While I'm sure that we'll be seeing some fact-checking videos in the near future, generally speaking, Biden presented facts, figures, and data that were accurate. It doesn't mean that everything was accurate. One of the things that I need everybody to remember before you're going to jump on the doom plan, and I've had discussions with other people. Do you replace Biden on the ticket with somebody? Oh no, is the sky falling? Maybe we should draft, Gavin Newsom or somebody. I'm not even necessarily opposed to those things, just based on the performance, except that there's a lot more to this performance than just the impression. But at the end of the day, which I'll get to in a little bit, the final impression walking away is what matters the most. And it's undeniable that this was a bad debate performance by Joe Biden. But the good news is that when he spoke with facts and truth almost the entire time. And it's worth remembering the specific structure of this debate was no notes, no prompter, no nothing. Which means every single bit of data that Joe had to put out had to come from memory. So here's an octogenarian who we've heard had a cold that day, and I believe it. I have a cold today. This video may not be among my best, merely because I have a cold and it's difficult to understand me. But there's a similarity to what I try to do in debates to what I think Biden tried to do in this debate. And there's a reason that it did not work. And there's a reason why I'm rethinking how I go about doing some of my debates. And Biden was exemplified that. So imagine you're 80-something. You've got a cold. You've been practicing and rehearsing. You have tons and tons of facts and figures in your head for this debate. Meanwhile, in addition to this, you are also in charge of the greatest world power with who knows how many other things going on and distractions. You have to keep a lot of information in your head, and you have to be ready at the drop of a hat to answer questions or to give responses that avoid answers to questions on occasions in the interest of national security. The truth is, Biden's old. From the instant he walked out on stage, he looked old. He looked slow. He looked weak. None of that's his fault. And none of that betrays what's actually going on in the man's mind. And as far as the merits of what was discussed in that debate, Biden won hands down. Whether or not anybody can recognize that is the issue at hand. If you just distilled, if you took the text of the debate, set aside the performance and the voice and everything else, and just looked at the text of the debate, you have Biden spitting facts and information and data, while on 2 or 3 occasions stumbling over his words and losing his place in whatever he's going to say, something that every single public speaker that I've ever spoken to has done, and I've done multiple times. I'm the guy who lives his life live. I do a live show on Sunday. I do a live show on Wednesday. I do live shows on some days in between. And if you look, most of the videos that I post here on my Atheist Debates thing are done in one take, no editing. It is rare that I actually bother to do an edit here. I feel better. I'm sick with a cold right now, and I genuinely feel better thinking on my toes and projecting my thoughts in a live, real format. Not everybody is really capable in that arena. And I think that an 80-year-old who's trying, matter of fact, I think he was probably overprepared and he wanted to come with facts. But he also, and this is part 2, the excuse, he also had a cold. Well, I've had a cold for the last 24 hours. If somebody says this video is one of my weaker ones, you're probably correct. But I challenge anybody to make a list of all the facts that President Biden presented in that debate, memorize them, and then regurgitate them in a live format where people are asking you questions, maybe in an order that you didn't know. And to do that at 80-something with a cold. Now, I saw a clip of him the day afterwards where he was on fire. And of course, he had a teleprompter. And so people are like, oh, that's what he can do with a teleprompter. Yes, some people are better with information in front of them than they are just trying to regurgitate information off the top of their head. That's the harsh reality of it. But at the end of the day, while he's sitting in the Oval Office, he's not required to be without notes. He's not required to be without aides or assistants. He has a whole bunch of people there who are there to assist him and to make sure that he doesn't misspeak or that he corrects things. The debate format is very different from the day-to-day roles and responsibilities in the job. So we go on to part 3, which is the good news for Trump. The fact that the mics were muted when it wasn't their turn to speak absolutely helped Trump. It made him look more measured. It made him look less confrontational. He was aided by the fact that they turned his mic off when it wasn't his turn to talk, and by the fact that there was no fact checking. And because of that, he sounded less bizarre than he usually does when he's just riffing off the cuff. And it's very clear that he had prepared slightly more than what some people were suggesting. But it's undeniable that he came off as generally affable and relatively quick-witted. And this is where we get to part 4, which is the bad for Biden. He was overprepared. He was tired. He was distracted. He was not affable. He looked like a deer in headlights a number of different times. And he wasn't particularly quick-witted. The bad for Trump is that if anyone cares about the facts and about character, he's in trouble. But do they? Do they care about that? They haven't since 2016. We've known who this person is. We've known about this individual's character. We've got somebody with a sexual assault background, with 34 felonies, with a number of just absolutely asinine and ridiculous statements, just way out there, not making sense. But if you're allowed to sit on stage and lie repeatedly, which he was, and he did, without being fact-checked and without the back and forth, you're going to do well. Because the biggest problem with this debate was the format. There was no debate. There was no debate. This was a joint press conference I'm going to answer mine. You're going to answer yours. Anytime they tried to do a back and forth, it was handled in such a clinical fashion that there was no real debate there. I like debates myself where you tell everybody what the subject is, and each person gives a very brief presentation of what their position on the subject is, and then the rest of it is as much back and forth as you can. Let me challenge your ideas. Let me try to do some fact checking. But in a format where the person's mics are muted, it worked to Trump's benefit because it made him look much more measured than he has been in any previous debate and most of the time. I've said before, debates are theater. It's not just about who has the best argument or the best facts. If you have the best argument and the best facts, there's no debate. We just present the facts. We have debates about things that are matter of opinion or where we don't have enough information to conclude and determine what the facts are. If somebody has an unfalsifiable view that a God exists or that there's objective morality or there's free will, these questions that we're constantly trying to address where you may not be able to show up and present facts. If you have actual facts, you just present them and you don't do the debate. There are people who were saying that Trump was engaged in what's called a gish gallop, which is where you spew out more information in a short period of time than anybody could reasonably respond to. But there wasn't any back and forth or response anyway, so the gish gallop almost didn't matter. It was, I'm going to sound like I'm saying a bunch of things, and I'm not going to be challenged on them, and I'm going to accuse my opponent of lying while I'm the one that's lying. How do you stand up against that and respond? In a debate where it's a performance, you have to have confidence, something that Biden lacked in presentation, but you have to have confidence that the part of your audience that you're trying to reach is going to understand the way you've tailored the message for them. And there's at least one poll that Trump's already mad about that shows Biden was higher than him in the poll after the debate, showing that, Biden was leading like 45 to 44 or something like that. And it irritated Trump. And it would have irritated anybody who had a seemingly objectively better debate performance. But Biden wasn't projecting confidence, and he wasn't instilling confidence in the people. Every single Democrat I've spoken to that watched the debate was like, this is a mess. There's talk of replacing him. I don't know what the right answer is right now, but I think I would hold off because there's another debate in September. And if the rules are the same, the September debate becomes an opportunity to see how they both learn from this format and how they can change. If the format for the September debate is exactly the same, I have ideas about what Biden should do to do better in that debate. I'm happy to go over them. Jimmy and I will probably talk about them as we lead up to that debate. But in reality, or in the meantime, until we get that September debate, I don't think that while the initial response was incredibly negative, and I've said it here, this is a bad debate for Biden. I don't think that's enough. There have been plenty of bad debates. And at the end of, when everything's said and done, we still know who these two men are. And most people have already made up their mind. And so the question is, when the undecideds watch that debate, I fully understand why Trump's projection of confidence and reasonableness, despite it being built on lies, may seem more appealing to some than Biden's attempt at projecting confidence and spreading the truth. I had somebody on Facebook come at me because somebody was like, oh, I used to think Trump was terrible, and now I'm considering kind of, giving him a shot to see if he can fix some of the stuff because the economy's so bad, when the economy's not so bad. Yes, inflation spiked, but fully 50% of the country, as I've said a dozen times in the last month, because this stat just blows my mind, 49% of people polled thought inflation was at a 30-year high when inflation was at a 30-year low. And when your perception is that dramatically removed from the facts, it's not like we were in the middle or meandering or there was some question about it. Unemployment was at a near 30-year low, and 49% of people polled thought it was at a near 30-year high. When what you think is real is that far removed from what's actually real, we have a number of other problems, and we are very much, it seems, in a post-fact world. It's when I end up doing a debate and I say, that's a fallacy. Nobody cares. When people call into the shows and I say, tell me what you believe and why, and they can't do either, or they can't string a handful of sentences together in a way that demonstrates at all what they're talking about, or they refuse to answer any question, what are we doing? If we are in a world now where there are flat earthers, where we're having to arrange an expedition this fall with a group of flat earthers and globe earthers heading to the South Pole to verify that the sun doesn't set and revolves around in all directions over a single day, and of course goes backwards because you'd be at the South Pole from what you would see at the North Pole. All those things just to try to prove that the Earth isn't flat. I don't know what world I'm living in anymore. It is incredibly weird to wake up and see this. When I show up to a debate, I'm there to present my case on the subject in question, and there isn't a person on the planet who can stand there and spew facts and data only to be responded with, nuh-uh, he's lying, he's the worst. That was a good chunk of this debate. He's lying, he's the worst. So let's get every news outlet should be going through that debate. There needs to be a video that is set aside the rhetoric, just remove the rhetoric, remove the name calling, remove the thing I'm getting ready to talk about next, and say, Biden said this, true or false? Biden said this, true or false? Biden said this, true or false? Trump said this, true or false? Trump said this, true or false? And just go boom, 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 right down the line. Because in that format, nobody has a way to fact check. And so why would they care? The person they don't think they agree with is saying something, they're probably lying. It's probably not accurate. Trump's lying. Biden's lying. But for the people who do care about the truth, having that video in a sped up claim, true or false, claim, true or false, claim, true or false, claim, true or false. I'm not the right guy to do that video, or I would have already done it. Plus, I'm sick and I'm trying to get my own videos done. But that absolutely needs to happen, I think, because it's the only way to get to a point where people might start caring about the facts. I posted a list of facts in the Facebook argument that I was having, specifically a laundry list of facts. And somebody said, oh, you're just being lied to, you're deceived, you've got Trump derangement syndrome, whatever. And I said, which fact did I say that was wrong? You go ahead, think about that for a second. What do you think that person said when I said, I literally said, name one fact that I've gotten wrong? Just one. Because if I'm wrong about it, I want to correct it. If I'm wrong about it, I will acknowledge it. And we can then say, how many of the others was I wrong about? You know what the person said when I said, name one fact that I got wrong? All of them. All of them. Thanks for showing you're not a serious interlocutor, that you don't care about truth, that this is just all rhetoric for you. It is simply not conceivable that after listing 20 or 30 facts that I got from multiple different sources, that I managed to get all of them wrong. This is what's happening in social media. The algorithms are basically prioritizing bots and trolls. You're having arguments with people who are disingenuous, who are just there to stir up shit. And when you have one person who's trying to tell the truth Biden needs to stop, first of all, seeming surprised when Trump lies or when Trump attacks or when Trump does one of the worst things that he did, which was this over-the-top fear-mongering about a murderous invasion from our southern border. Biden's letting people in to kill us all and take our women. When your debate includes statements like that aren't shot down, that aren't corrected, what are you supposed to do? How do you win? I mean, I generally don't look at my debates in terms of winning or losing. For me, the win is to get the message that I'm trying to convey out to the people I'm trying to convey it to. I'm not always trying to convince my opponent, but I'm trying to present the best case I can for the people out there who share that person's views, but maybe aren't under the spotlight. So finally, golf. There was a weird discussion about what's Joe Biden's handicap or how far he can hit a golf ball or how good Trump is and how he's won 2 club championships. And let me tell you, of all the things that happened in that debate, this is the one that I might be most embarrassed about because this is ridiculously easy. President Biden should have sat there, and after Trump went on his little diatribe about how good he is at golf, instead of talking about how he got his own handicap down from 8 to 6 while he was a senator or while he was vice president or how he'd happily go out and engage in golf with him, shut the fuck up. There's only one sentence that needed to be stated after Trump started talking about golf, and it's this: I'm the president of the United States, and I'm working to become president a second time. My golf game is utterly irrelevant to that job, and I would be thrilled if folks elected me again in November and sent this walking constitutional crisis and felon off to continue cheating and bragging about his golf while the rest of us focus on the work needed to preserve democracy and build a better world. That's what he needed to say. I don't give a shit what his handicap is. That's what needed to be said. When September rolls around, if the same format is used, Biden needs to be prepared to say stuff like that. Biden needs to be prepared to say, I've given you guys facts before. Let me tell you about vision. I've given you the facts. We've already pointed out, and the fact checkers from our previous debate have already acknowledged, I had the better economy. I had better this. I had better this. I'm better on this subject. I'm better on this subject. I'm better on this. The fact checkers have already addressed this from our first debate. In this second debate, let me tell you what my vision is. And the only facts that Biden needs to worry about are the ones that he'll need to correct whatever lie Trump's saying, so that when Trump utters a lie, you can immediately respond with, that's not true. The actual data is this, and it was fact-checked multiple times between the last debate and now. It's embarrassing that he's still getting it wrong. But this is what you expect. I don't know how we can put this man as leader of our country when he refuses to be corrected on misinformation. He has to be coddled by his advisors. Nobody can tell this man he's wrong. You want to say I didn't do a very good debate performance back in June? You're correct. And I've corrected that here today, I think. Let me tell you about what I want to do with America. Let me tell you about what positive changes we made, which ones we're going to continue to move forward on, and which ones will take America in a new direction. Not something potentially radical, but getting us towards equality, helping to end the division, helping to end the misinformation that allows nearly half of our population to have a model of the United States in their head that is the exact opposite of the facts of reality. How to exercise compassion for our citizens and with regard to our global partners and allies around the world. How to do better in Gaza. How to do better in Ukraine. How to do better, most importantly, right here in the United States of America. Let me tell you what that vision is and how it is dramatically better than the lies he will tell you on behalf of his Make America Goofy again. Make America fascist again. Make America golf better. That's what needs to happen, in my opinion, in September. I'll be looking forward to it. I'll probably go live, but since several people, I know this isn't atheist content, but it is secular humanist content. And if you're not fine with me putting out secular humanist content and things like that here, I appreciate that. Feel free to leave your feedback and comments down below. This is in 10 plus years, the first time I've specifically addressed, I think, a political debate. And it's important. It's important because if we are truly living in a world where the facts and the truth don't matter as much as the impression someone gets. Ooh, I didn't like how he stumbled over his words. I didn't like how he stuttered. I didn't like it either. I didn't like the fact that I was looking at a really old liar and a really old truth teller and trying to figure out which one was actually best for us. I didn't like the fact that so much was made of their age when I'm pretty good at what I do. I hope at 80, I'm as good at remembering facts on a broad range of issues and being able to regurgitate most of them accurately under fire without notes for 90 minutes on a day when I have a cold. Now, that said, I'll say it again to end this. Biden did not have a good debate, but I'm optimistic that he can and will in September. I'm not as optimistic as I was before this debate, but I'm optimistic. And I hope the people who are coaching and advising him seriously take a look at what went wrong. You cannot rely on Trump to lose his shit if you're also going to mute his mic. You cannot rely on facts to counter fake facts if there's nobody checking facts. You have to make this about each individual's vision for America. Trump doesn't have a vision. He's the puppet of Project 2025 and others. And that's what resulted in the changes to the Supreme Court that killed Roe versus Wade and will continue to make the Supreme Court more powerful and more broken than ever. In 2016, when Trump was running, my wife at the time kept posting, "It's about the goddamn motherfucking Supreme Court." It's what she posted over and over again, and she was completely right. And this time, it's not as much about the Supreme Court because that's already lost. Whoever the next president is might appoint a justice or two, if you were really fortunate. This one needs to be about fixing Congress and operating at the state and local level to ensure the protections that the federal government has failed to protect. And that's what the next debate focus needs to be. See you next time. Bye-bye.